And as promised, we're here and we have a fun episode today. I'm joined by Steve Genovi, of course, my co-host, Solana Lewis, unofficial of the most official unofficial co-host we have, and first time on the show, Joey Shepard, also known as Joey Bagadonis. I like to call him Joe Bags. Joey, how are you, man?
I'm good. How are you all?
Fantastic. Ready to get this draft going. And Joey, your first time on the show, you do a lot for the sport of powerlifting. I'll get into why I wanted you on the show, but give a little background on yourself for the Two White Lights listeners.
Yeah, so I've been competing since 2015, couple USAPL meets and been USPA really since 2016. I'm a national USPA referee, and then I became a meet director and started my own business running meets back last year with me and my girlfriend, Erin, under Shepard Strength. So I run meets here in Indiana under the USPA as well.
Mm-hmm. And what you failed to mention is that you are, one, an avid sports fan, kind of obnoxious. You're from the Midwest. So if you're an obnoxious sports fan, you're going to be more obnoxious if you're from the Midwest. And on occasion, you piss people off in powerlifting, which is pretty much the resume for Two White Lights. Like, that's all you really need to come on Two White Lights.
Yeah, I mean, I spent way too much time with you and Garrett Fear. So, I mean, it hits every bucket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have today a draft, and I'm just going to call it the GOAT draft. We are going to draft our team of GOATs. And of course, if anything is analytical, involves numbers or organization, I pass it off to Steve Genovi. So Steve, break down the rules for the anime fans who have never done a fantasy football draft in their life or have never watched a sport in their life. How does this work?
All right. Well, we did this for our IPF show last year, but simply put, in a second here, we're going to do a little random draw of who's drafting first, but all of us are going to get a chance to draft. And then a snake draft means whoever drafts last in round one drafts first in round two, and it snakes back and forth. There's really no rules. You can pick whoever you want. It's a GOAT draft. We're trying to pick who we legitimately think is the greatest lifters of all time, whether it's raw, multiply, single ply, tested, untested, from 1942, from 2022. We already talked about before we started recording. I'm pretty sure about 90% of the actual GOATs that Angelo has no idea who they are, because Angelo didn't pay attention until 2019. So he only knows lifters who are currently lifting. So he actually wanted my board that I created so that he could copy and take my picks, and then got pissed when I sent him an open powerlifting link saying, "Here's your board."
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's fucking bullshit. But also, if we're trying to make the team of GOAT powerlifters, and the way we're going to get the winner here, Steve called out the idea we just Venmo him money. Of course, that's bullshit. I'm never doing that ever. I'm not actually now, even if you do work for me, I'm just not going to Venmo you the money. So you kind of burn your bridge there. But we're going to have people vote on it. I think I'm in the best position to have people vote on the best team, because most of the Two White Lights listeners don't give a fuck about powerlifting prior to 2016 anyways. So I might use that strategy against you. You could pick your old fucking timey powerlifters. I'm going to pick the current ones.
Angelo, realistically, if you just picked nothing but 82.5 USAPL lifters, you'll probably win.
That's a very good point. Yeah, I'll just do that all team flex. Just go down the list of team flex athletes, and people will vote for me that way. Only take drug tested lifters. Only people pull on stiff bars. I should be golden if we're doing Two White Lights demographic.
What percentage of the podcast listeners are women, Angela?
Actually, I can pull up those analytics right now. It's not great. It's just getting it out there. It's not
It's better than my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is less than 1% women.
Oh my gosh, no way.
That makes a lot of sense.
Less than 1%.
Is it just me? It might be me.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Could be.
Okay, so I have the demographics pulled up here. Actually, believe it or not, it's slightly better than my Instagram following, which is like 9% women, which is very funny because when my girlfriend said it, when I had my Instagram account of my powerlifting, it's just going to be a bunch of women following me. No, she was completely wrong on that. It was almost the exact opposite. I actually didn't think it would be 10% women. it's 9% females, 88% male, and then non-specified and non-binary the most. Yeah. So this episode should probably bring in female lifters, right? Like that's a fantasy draft, a goat draft.
Yeah, for sure.
Lana, you're on.
Whoever's listening will hopefully at least vote for my team. So I'm gonna need this 9% to really go hard for me.
Yeah, that's gonna make a huge impact. I think our Instagram
if we're pulling up demographics, anyone under a 400 Wilks should vote for me. I'm the only one with a under 400 Wilks on this podcast, so they should all team up with Team Steve.
And then everyone who's in the USPA and untested feds vote for Joe Bag's team.
There we go.
Yeah, and anyone that is pro-communism, Angelo.
hey, that's not as bad as it used to be, man. You could have said something else.
Let's get into it. I'm gonna pick the order. First pick in the 2 white lights goat draft goes to Joey.
All right.
The worst pick in a snake draft is always first.
Well,
there's
actually,
only
for
4
this
teams. If there was a 12-team draft, it might be different. But
for this, I'm going to actually say, though, on this one, it is because it's not like for fantasy football and all these other fantasy drafts, you're doing it for the next season of current people. So you have like here's a consensus number 1 that we can pick. This one, you're going to piss off someone who you pick number 1. You're going to piss off definitely a fan or the lifter or a person who thinks they're number 1. So yeah, this might be the pick or the draft where number 1 is the worst.
All right,
to get.
Number 2, the Oracle, Steve.
Okay.
All right.
Number 3.
Number 2 makes sense. You're number 2 to me. You were my co-host, so that's actually a fantastic order for you.
Well, it's perfect because you're not. I mean, considering you're supposed to be number 1, you're actually going to be the bottom. I mean, I think that works for you. You are a bottom. Solana is number 3, which means de facto Angelo is the final pick in the draft.
I bet last piece of paper said Angelo. He was like, no.
I don't even need to show it. We're just with Angelo. Maybe I wrote Steve twice. Who knows? Not going to reveal if I did or not. All right. That means Joey, you're up first. Who was the first pick?
You're on the hot seat.
All right, I'm gonna go with probably the least popular answer for IPF people, but I've got to go Ed Cohn number 1. In my opinion, he's the godfather of powerlifting. He's been doing it since the 80s, from 80s to 2007, and has won in weight classes from 165 all the way up to 242. And technically single ply, but I'd argue that the wraps he used were less supportive than inter sleeves at this point.
I think the safest number 1 you could potentially have, you're going against all demographics. But Ed Cohen and possibly the powerlifting historians in here can shed some light on this. He failed the IPF drug test, correct?
Yep.
And was banned.
Yes.
And was banned.
That takes a lot of stock out of me for Ed Cohen. Now, granted, like when we made the list, or like I did a Q&A on 2 white lights, Ed was on pretty much everyone's list as far as goats go. And yeah, he's nicknamed the GOAT, and most people refer to him as GOAT powerlifting, but that actually matters to me. I'm taking the Johnny Candido take. Like, that's important. If he was always untested, he would probably be my number 1. But the fact that he did fail a drug test at any point of his career automatically bumps him down for me. That is the USAPL leader.
Something that counters that for me is the fact that I forget which deadlift it was. I want to say it's like 898, or 920, whichever was the deadlift that took forever for anyone to break. He did that with old school weightlifting order rules, which meant that it wasn't like a round robin like we do nowadays in powerlifting. It just goes up in weight. So he had to do his first, second, and third attempt following each other because he had the 3 heaviest deadlifts of his flight. So therefore, he had to do all 3 deadlifts with like something like a 2-minute rest. And he deadlifted something like, I think it was like it was either 898 or 920. I forget which record it was that he held for like years and just recently got broken. But he did that having to follow up 2 deadlifts in a row. That's one of the most amazing accomplishments in all powerlifting history. That alone right there.
Until
So
you
on
were
top
rendered
of
back on
it-
the drug test.
I give a lot of stock to people with longevity. I mean, I get Angela's point. There's a handful of names that would throw out from ever being a part of the conversation because he's not the only person that failed an IPF or tested drug test that went to the untested side afterwards. But the longevity of 26 years of top level powerlifting is something barely anyone can compete with in conversation.
I would agree with you on that one. I mean, that's pretty much, I think Hack, when he came on the show, talked about the longevity and why that makes, in his opinion, Ed Cohen the greatest powerlifter of all time. But he would be always on my team, but he would just, from that, I think removes it from overall like that status because of the failed drug test. And that is, again, the USAPL IPF elitist in me speaking. Because that does matter, especially modern, with the powerlifters currently going tested, untested, and either hopping between feds.
Can I go on to pick number 2 and then basically take the person who didn't fail the drug test but should be the GOAT?
Yeah.
Is it a shocker? I'm going John Hack.
You bitch. All right. That was definitely.
Well, who else was I gonna pick? It was gonna be Ed Cohen and John Hack 1 and 2. We already knew that was happening.
I could feel some other picks here, but yeah, you're a bitch for taking that.
Because you're going Taylor Hatwood because you're trying to appeal to 2 white light fans.
No, I wanted to take John Hack. That's what I wanted.
This is the point. I think everyone wants John Hack.
I called you a bitch for taking my pick. This is great. This is just typical fantasy football type draft. You're a bitch for taking my pick. That's about it.
Look,
good.
That's literally Tom Brady versus Joe Montana, the current person who's still breaking records versus the old head that people would argue didn't do it to the same competition or standard.
Which I do think is a relevant discussion because, I do not believe you can compare LeBron James to Bill Russell. If you put LeBron James back in the era with Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain, he's doing the same thing, if not more. I do think that's relevant. Not only is John Hack breaking all of the all-time records, he's doing it in the strongest era we've ever had in all powerlifting.
Very true. I like him too.
He did it in the IPF and was arguably one of the top 3 lifters in the IPF at the time. And it took forever for Russ to eventually break it. Then he goes to untested, breaks the 181, the 198, and the 220 records, and in reality, the 242, I believe, because his record at 220, I believe, is higher than the 242. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
So, and has I believe the second highest dots all time. That's for wrapped or raw, and he did it raw. Belkin's the only one higher, and Belkin did it in wraps. So,
yeah, I mean, it's a strong pick.
The only argument is longevity. Is how long?
Yeah, that's the only argument.
Which I actually say the Ed Cohen versus John Hack thing is more the MJ and LeBron comparison. It's someone who is not that far from us, and also it's powerlifting too. The type of sport matters because numbers are numbers, weights are weights. So it actually can hold up for a really long time because the weight didn't really change. I guess the rules might have changed, the competition might have changed, but it's not necessarily like the NBA in the 70s was different from the 90s. That is a very different thing. And in this case, it's comparable. Ed Cohen, the longevity, the weights he lifted are still marveled at. John Hack is the current guy destroying everything. That's why I think it's the MJ and LeBron debate, because it's a little bit more recent and the numbers still kind of aligned to it. But I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with what you're saying, Steve.
I mean, numbers are numbers, but you have to give credit, and this is where Hack's good at unprecedented feats. I mean, his 181 at 2K was unbelievable. But again, similar to the 4-minute mile, not long after he did it, Blake LeHue did it. It's still no less incredible, but I genuinely think Blake being able to do it was because someone did it first and was like, oh, this is possible. And then he went on to beat that total. So, I mean, that's where Ed and John really separate themselves, is they were doing things long before anyone else thought that was possible in those weight classes.
Yeah, the IPF and USAPL thing's huge to me too, because I compete in the 83 kilo weight class, and it's still a number that people kind of look at. They want to beat Hack's old total because he did that in what, 2016, 2017? That's a while ago to hold. That's a long time to hold a record. And Russ just recently broke it, but we're all still kind of around that total, like the second best guys around that total. And he goes on, and then also the number that he hit, because I think the comparison between him and Atwood currently, the number he hit was back at a time where no one was even coming close to that number. Like him and Gibbs were the two like overall best lifters, and you had Hack reign supreme. Then he goes untested, wins everything, wins all the money meets, breaks all the records, holds records in weight classes he doesn't even belong in. He's a great pick, Steve. It pains me to say it, but congratulations, you lucky bastard, getting second overall pick.
Thank you, sir.
I'm
Let's
telling
move
you,
on.
you had
Solana,
name
third
multiple
pick.
things. All right, third pick, my first pick. I'm going with Yuri Belkin.
All right.
Yeah, I'm taking him. I mean, 27 all-time world records, competing since 2008. So longevity is there. Still has the all-time world record in 100 kilo since 2019 for total. So, and second best deadlift in 110 weight class. A lot of compliments. I'm taking him.
I think it's a solid pick. Did he fail an IPF test?
I don't
just go untested?
remember. I don't remember. I
I
don't think he did. I think he was an IPF lifter that then legitimately switched the right way.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna say, he's from Russia. Do we trust that anyone from Russia has been completely clean competing in any Olympic style sport?
Well, if there's proof, if there's no proof, that's all the proof I need.
Exactly.
It sucks. That's it for me. If it doesn't come up,
you can compare though. I mean, in the IPF, I think his best single ply total is just barely more. Am I right on this? He obviously gained strength going untested. That's the only thing I'm going to say.
Oh, really? That's kind of crazy.
Like a lot of his. Okay, so it looks like, So it looks like in 2014 was his last IPF meet, and he hit 2298. And then after that, he left and started doing, WRPF, which was around back in 2016, and then GPA, and then IPL Worlds. He hit a 2491 single ply in an untested fed in Russia back in 2016. So it's very possible that between 2014 and 16, he legitimately did. I do see, though, he did FPR, which was the Russia meet. He did have a DQ. That looks like it was a bomb out, though. That doesn't look like it was a DQ for a drug test, though. So, yeah, I don't think he ever failed a drug test. I think he legitimately switched over. And then eventually he has out-totaled his single ply in wraps by almost 70 pounds, it looks like. So, yeah, I mean, for a long until Hack came around, he was the dude to beat. Like, it was just like the Yuri Belkin money meet shows. He took it every single time. Yeah, I mean, he was kind of one of the first true like freaks of modern day powerlifting, I think, in the sense of like what we look at the format of just people winning these big coefficient score money meets.
And to be fair, it could come back to be the Yuri Belkin money meet once every restrictions, or if they ever restrictions drop where Russian athletes can come back to the States and compete. I mean, the only reason we haven't seen Yuri is because of COVID and then all of the political unrest right now. I mean, for all, like, obviously his dots numbers aren't where Hacks are, but you never know what could happen in a head-to-head if Yuri can come back to the stateside and compete.
He hasn't been the same, though, in a while. His deadlift has not, like, he struggles to deadlift over 900 now, it seems like, fairly often when he does it in actual, like, full power meet. Like, it's like low nines, where before he was going, like, mid nines. I don't know. It was his squat that honestly started blowing up, because at Big Dogs, he tried to squat 1,000 pounds. But his last full meet in wraps, he only squatted 804. I'm not saying he couldn't come over and be the Yuri Belkin show again, but I do feel like he might be a little past his prime. But yeah, I mean, obviously longevity, you're talking longevity 2008 all the way to 2022. Dude's been doing it a long time, which we've talked about. Like, if you look at longevity, it's almost all the people that tend to start natural and then switch over when the time is right versus just hopping on gear from the get-go and thinking that's going to carry them to the promised land.
Yeah. I mean, really with these first three picks here, that's probably the overall consensus minus like a few of the USAPL lifters, with John Hack kind of like crossing that out. I think Ed Cohen, John Hack, Yuri Belkin, pretty much what you would expect, top three for most people.
Yep.
And let's go with number 4.
All right, number 4. So I actually get a little bit of advantage here because I get to pick first next time. So I actually get to take
two
picks here. All right, I'm gonna go Taylor Atwood for number 4. Taylor Atwood, he does not have the longevity, I think, of Ed Cohen, Yuri Belkin. John Hack, I still think, has more of the past accolades, but Taylor Atwood hit 838 and a half in 74, and I don't see any 74 kilo lifter getting even close to that if your name's not Austin Perkins. And then from there, you get no one. You get no one even coming relatively close. The chase to 800 was something that was a story in powerlifting about 2 or 3 years ago. 2 lifters hit it. One was Taylor Atwood, and he fucking nuked it. He totaled, I think, 810 when he did it. Perk did total 800, but it's a kind of iffy 800. It was at Midland. I don't really like those college meets that are judged by the people in the college. I just don't like that. And then the other 2 were Ricky and Michael C., and they didn't really come relatively close to 800. So I think Taylor Atwood, and then, you know, past world championships, national championships included, he has the accolades, he has the records, and I don't think any lifter in the 74 kilo weight class is going to come relatively close to those numbers in the next 10 years. Aside from Austin Perkins, and if Taylor Atwood doesn't exist, Austin Perkins, the second place guy, probably would be somewhere on this list too as one of the greatest powerlifters of all time, simply because he's so far ahead of the field. It's 838, 800, and then a bunch of people at 750 to 760. It's ridiculous how much ahead he is of people. And he's in the current greatest powerlifting generation, especially in drug tested, that we've ever seen. And he's mopping the floor with people, totaling 790, and that's 40 kilos below his best meet. And he's still winning IPF World's Best Overall Lifter.
And he has the untested record as well on a stiff bar. 838 is the record of all powerlifting, regardless. But I'm going to be honest. I would not put him in my top 4. And there's a very specific reason, and this year solidified it. The 838 is arguably one of the greatest performances of all time. I'm not denying that. Taylor has one issue, though, and that is he has these great performances, and then we get a year or 2 of downtime because of injuries. If you think about sports, if you had a person with a 15-year career, but every other year they had a down year because of injuries, could you consider them the GOAT?
I could, just based on the accolades not being hurt by the injuries. Like, the injured Taylor Atwood still is the best in his weight class and still the best overall lifter. I mean, it wasn't always the case. I mean, Hack was the best overall lifter before Atwood. That's why I think the Hack pick was a fantastic pick. And then even if you go male, female, there was other lifters who had those insane formula scores, but he still has those accolades. And even with a 790 total, with his 790 total in 2019 that he totaled at Worlds, he would still probably be in a lot of people's GOAT lists because of how crazy that number was. Now it's like a number that's kind of shoot away. And that's because he totaled something unprecedented and ridiculous that we didn't think a 74 lifter would ever total. And he did it relatively easily too. I mean, we are talking about that performance, but he has the accolades, the past accolades, I think, to back it up. I thought about that. It was my number one thought, but I think the past accolades do negate those.
Yeah, and I also think, like, if you are injured and still beating everyone, that kind of says everything right there.
he is beating everyone, but I'm trying to think of a good. I don't want to say Bo Jackson because Bo Jackson was hurt way more than Taylor Atwood, but like Bo Jackson, like we all knew on his A game, probably could have been the greatest running back of all time. If he could have stayed healthy, would have been the greatest running back of all time. But he couldn't. But I don't want to make that full comparison because Taylor actually did kind of have that year where Bo never really truly had that year. I don't know. I'm not denying Taylor is unreal. It's just that like he's had too many down years due to injury for me to likely put him in that first round, in my opinion.
See, and to add to what Steve said, I think the longevity just needs to be there for me as well to get him round one. I mean, if I was picking my current, like who I'd want to build a team with, like fantasy football, Taylor Atwood, I think would be the number one overall pick for everyone because he's still in really his prime, just dealing with injuries.
He's Christian McCaffrey. Like you want to take him and score 380, or do you want to take him and he's going to be on your IR all year?
Exactly. So like
you don't. But at the same time, like he's still total 790 with him being on the IR technically, right? We would have to come up with the scoring how you do with powerlifting, but he won IPF World's Best overall lifter at his weight class. That's like the number one thing you can do.
He did, but he's like a running back with a little bit of an injury risk.
He is a former running back.
Yeah.
So that analogy kind of hits pretty. I understand these arguments. I get them. I'm not disagreeing with you on but I do think the injury thing is more reserved for other lifters. I don't want to, I mean, I guess I could, right? I would say Jesse Norris is more of a Bo Jackson type. We saw flashes of how amazing this is. Like Taylor Atwood is, I don't think is as injury prone and has he's still there.
We're gonna have some people in the coming rounds that I could make a very good argument that I think they could be above him, and we'll see if he gets taken before. I got one person in particular. He's gonna be my pick if no one takes him in the next two picks. We shall see. Yeah, Angela, you can go ahead. Pick your next USAPL lifter.
Well, hold on. I mean, that was a great first round. It was a fantastic first round. And it was just as good as Leflar Bros. Ladies and gentlemen, go to leftlarbros.com and use promo code 2WL15, ORC15, Solana15, and save yourself some money on the best lifting merchandise there is. From head to toe, they make you look great. They got the dad hats. They got T-shirts galore. They even have cutoffs. They got joggers. They got socks. They make you look fantastic in the gym, outside the gym, on the platform. They got the best comp tees, in my opinion, outside the platform as well. They do it all. Follow them on Instagram as well. And check out the Leflar Bros family. Grow. Tons of great athletes. They sponsor a ton of meets. They're outfitting a whole lot of lifters. Definitely check them out. Use promo code 2WL15. And there's still 2 White Lights merchandise on Leflar Bros. This dad hat that I am wearing currently, you can't find on leftlarbros.com. So use those promo codes. Make 3 separate purchases. ORC15, Solana15, and 2WL15. You're supporting us all if you do that. All right, my next pick, and I'm actually very scared to make this pick now. I'm starting to get a little bit anxious. I got 2 people I want to pick. The person who I think is a fantastic value pick, this is where his strategy comes in, is the value pick versus the person who I actually want to pick. If we're talking longevity, though, I'm going to pick Kim Walford. Kim Walford has how many world championships? Too many to count?
7.
The most battle-tested lifter possibly of all time. And still doing it at a high level. Kim Walford's my pick. I thought Solana, you were going to take her. I'm not going to lie. I thought you were going to take her. I'm a little bit surprised I got her in my second round, but I actually think she's the best female lifter longevity-wise of all time. Definitely tested, in my opinion. Is there any disagreement from any of you that
Jen
wrong?
Could be the only one, but I think Kim has. I might be wrong on this. I don't know which one. I mean, Jen has more world championships because she has bench only ones too. I don't know which one has more open world championships because I am not that good of a historian. But Kim, in the grand scheme of things, is more competitive in current day and has more recent IPF titles as well as the longevity compared to Jen. So Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's any argument can be made about like the GOAT of USAPL women is Kim. I don't think I could even make an argument against that.
I was actually kind of flip-flopping between Taylor Atwood and her, just going first overall pick, mainly because, I mean, you can't really argue with all the world championships that she had, and they're not, I don't know, not a whole lot of more walkthroughs, and now she's still currently battling it out with the best. But I got fourth pick, so I got the actual kind of advantage here of getting 2 straight picks. That's the advantage there. So, yeah, I'm going with Kim. First female taken, I think a strong argument made, best female powerlifter of all time, regardless of untested or tested.
It looks like Jen has 3 open championships, and the other 8 are bench.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is
Or
what,
7 are bench and 1's masters. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if I can really even argue too much. There's not really too many things I can say against Kim because she's just kind of done it. She's most clutch deadlifter of all time. Yeah, I mean, the only argument I can say against her is she doesn't hold any of the current open world records. There are people that are stronger than her now, but obviously she was doing it before her time. She's done it on multiple weight classes. Like I said, the only argument against her, because I think in 10 years, we could see her drop down on that list for the reason that if we have longevity from some of our current world champions, they're putting up numbers that Kim hasn't been able to touch.
She still has the deadlift world record for 148, but I do agree. I mean, I'm curious to see how strong she gets in this new weight class because she didn't really fill it out fully this year. So I think she could start to uptick a little bit, but I do have to agree. I don't see her like winning the 76 with the competition she has.
Yeah.
And also, I want to say, suck it, Steve Denovi. Technically, not a USAPL lifting pick.
Oh my gosh.
She was in the USAPL.
John Hack's
for
a
a
USAPL
very long
pick?
time. He is too in
Gary
sense.
Balkin,
Yes,
an IPF pick?
yes, I am saying John Hack is a semi USAPL pick as well.
Whatever. Suck it, Steve. I got
Kim
it.
is a USAPL pick.
I don't think
All
she would
right.
like you guys. I'm just gonna go on record. She probably won't enjoy that. Not the greatest relationship from my understanding. But
All right,
all right.
Solana, next pick.
All right, well, I'm taking Jen. Jen Thompson is purely like longevity. She has 11 world championships, even though we decided 7 are bench, 1 masters, 3 open. I think what really pushes her over for me is even though she's not gonna be winning IPF worlds again for like open, I don't think ever, but like the fact that she came into nationals this year and like bested her best ever total is like kind of crazy to me. Like she's still going up numbers wise. And I thought she was never going to best her best total again because last year was rough. She went like 7 for 9 in most meets and sometimes 6 for 9. So I have to pick her.
Jen is incredible, but again, we're purposely being argumentative here because this isn't fun if we aren't. I don't think if she had the bench she had, if she just had the total, we would be talking about her. Like, let's say she had the exact same total, but it was more evenly distributed. She probably isn't being picked at that point. I think her bench and the amazingness of her bench carries her a bit too much in the sense of the GOAT debate.
I think it makes it better. She's the only woman benching anything near this.
If we're talking bench GOAT, yes, but we're talking total. We're talking power lifter, not bench. If we're talking bench, she's probably one of the first 3 picks. I'm talking power lifter. She's an amazing power lifter, but is she the 6th best power lifter of all time?
Currently, right now, no. But if you look at what she was doing when she really first got into it, she was one of the best, if not the best, natty powerlifter of all time, not just including her bench. The big thing is the longevity is there to where she's still at a competitive level, getting podium at Raw Nats, where the competition, yes, is caught up. But if you look at what she did when she really was in her prime or peak, I think that puts her in the argument of this category. I don't know if I'd pick her the 2nd round, but I definitely think she deserves to be on this list.
She
Oh, yeah,
deserves
for
to be on
sure.
this list. It's just that
Sorry, Steve.
I'm saying she's higher on this list because of her bench, but we're not talking about bench.
Yeah, I do like Solana's argument though, because I think if this recent Mega Nationals didn't happen, this performance, she would still be within these rounds and picked in the draft. I just don't know second round, but still getting podium position at a ultra competitive weight class at this age and what she's done definitely earned some points in my book. Like, I was amazed to see her on the podium. I didn't know she was on the podium until I saw the podium positions. I'm like, holy shit, she was able to do it still. Like, this is a very difficult thing. And I mean, her and like David Ricks are the only people I know competing this competitively into this age. So I do think that
out of all the
helps.
things we said, she may take more offense of comparing her age to Dave Ricks. He's
Wait,
nuts.
I mean,
Hold on. What other female is Jen Tom? I'm saying Dave Ricks
Jen's
is
at her late 40s. Dave Ricks, I think, is almost 70.
he's not almost. Is he really that old?
Hold on. Jen, if you're listening, this is not my point that I was making. She is the
It's my point.
in the female division of powerlifting, doing the most at the most advanced age. David Ricks is the male apparent to that.
All right.
Or
David
the male,
Rick 60. David Rick 62.
and
Okay,
yeah,
give him
David
a little bit.
old guy competing at the high level, and she's a woman at an older age competing at that high level. That's
Angel, I was waiting for you to screw up. I was waiting for you to say old woman, and I was really waiting for you to screw up.
So
Jen Thompson punched me in the fucking face next time.
my argument that I'm gonna throw
might.
in, my argument that I'll throw in for why Jen, she's one of the best competitors we've ever seen. It was something, I forget the streak. It was something insane of how many meets in a row that she went unbeaten. And it's not always about total. It's about competing on the day and doing what you did on the day. And she was one of the best competitors in head-to-head matchups we've ever seen.
I think her and Kim Walford, they had that comparison between the two. They just won head-to-head matchups and just kept on winning. That definitely holds more stock. But Jen, by the way, I like Solana's pick. Steve didn't seem to like Solana's pick, so ignore all the shit that possibly could be attributed to me saying that you're old, and just focus all on Steve, all the negative things he said. I agreed. I like Solana's pick. Steve, you're a dick.
You are a dick. And one thing I want to point out too, like, it's kind of the same thing, but her best total besides this year was 2018, 1103. This year she got 1106. So I think like 4 years later, and you come back, like, no, I don't regret you. Jen, I did not regret you being my second pick. # friends.
Steve does.
All right. Well, I'm fine with that because you're leaving me with the person I would have picked third overall.
Which is?
Sergey Fedoshenko.
Damn it. Fuck you, Steve.
The only knock on Sergey Fedoshenko is his weight class. But the fact of the matter is, he's also, I think, like 3 or 4 time best overall lifter of IPF Worlds, regardless of his weight class. But here's the thing with Sergey Fedoshenko. No one's even gotten within like 100 pounds of him in that weight class. And he does it he's not only the world champion, every year he can compete because he couldn't compete this year in the 59 kilo class in the raw side. He's actually just as dominant in the single ply side and the world game side. I honestly think you could make an argument Sergey Fedoshenko is better than Ed Hack and John Hack and Ed Hack is the
best lifter of all time. Imagine those two combined.
Sergey Fedoshenko is the best IPF lifter in history. And I think that would be a very hard argument to make argument against, because not only has he done it for I don't know how many years, he's still the best in his weight class. It's not like you can say, oh, well, people have beat him now. It's kind of an old. He's still the best by like over 50 kilos.
Yeah. This is the most Steve Denovi pick. This is like
no argument.
Joey, I like you. That's why you're on here.
Well, I had no argument because that was my pick. So I'm more upset because I was teed up to make that exact pick and surprise Angelo. So screw you, Steve. I'm on Angelo's side.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hashtag
Sergey
Steve's-
has
If you're
out-totaled
listening
second
to
place
this,
more than
hashtag-
Sergey Fedoshenko has out-totaled second place more than Taylor has out-totaled second place, yet he's in a weight class where they're totaling less.
the weight
So
class.
percentage-wise, the amount he's out-totaling second place is astronomical.
Yeah,
No one,
he's
no
in the
one's
weight
even
class
close to
that
him.
no one really pays attention to.
But
the
if you
problem.
take coefficient score, he still wins.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're 100% right. Just he's in a weight class. Like when we make this list and the fans vote it, it's gonna hurt because people are gonna be like, "Who the fuck is that?" It sounds strong with the name of Sergey Fedoshenko. How can you go wrong with that? But they'll be like, all right."
Well,
like the IPF enthusiasts would love it, but
on top of it, he actually has the best raw with wraps total in raw, and he also has the best single ply total in 132s. So he has the best raw, classic raw, and single ply total of all time at 132 on the
And
tested
untested.
side.
And untested, correct?
And untested. Yeah, he beat Richard Hawthorne. It's wrap total in sleeves.
Yeah. So literally everything. Every single possible record you could have, he has in that weight class.
all right.
If I could drop my mic without unplugging, I'd do it.
Yeah, no one's disagreeing with you, Steve. It's just been, it's just.
Well, no, I'm just trying to rub it in because he should have been in the first round, yet someone else decided to take someone.
Oh
who
yeah.
could've-
I'm just gonna take a 74 kilo lifter on principle every single time.
All right, Joey,
you know-
go ahead.
Hold on, really quick. I'm gonna get this out there because I'm positive Sergey Fedoshenko does not listen to Two White Lights. We don't have a whole lot of Russian lifters. There's no one who competes at 59 kilos anyways. It's a small fucking weight class, and there's not a lot of guys there. I'm gonna take the mass.
That would be a
That's-
legitimate
that's
argument
not-
if he didn't
that's
out
not.
coefficient score everyone too. If he didn't out coefficient score everyone, I would agree. But the fact of the matter is I believe he's been the best overall lifter at equipped
Because
and raw worlds.
Well,
no one else has done that.
No one exists at 59 kilos because once you start lifting weights, you don't be 59 kilos for long. You're eventually in two weight classes above that, and that's 74 kilos. That's where it starts. That's where like the powerlifting kind of starts almost for me. Now 66 kilos are jacked as all belief. But I mean, a lot of them are 74 is waiting to happen. But that's my knock on it. And yeah, I'll be insulting to Sergey Fedoshenko. I is positive he doesn't listen to Two White Lights. So it's a cowardly move on my end, but I'm going to do it. All right, Joey.
All right, I'm going to flip the script and go the exact opposite weight range, and I'm going to go Ray Williams.
Nice.
I have a hard
That's
time.
good.
So, I mean, my argument for Ray, he 1,000-pound squat in sleeves on a stiff bar. He's really brought powerlifting to ESPN. He's done it for 9 years. He's only technically lost twice in his entire career, and one was a DQ based on injury, and the other was in 2014 to Blaine Sumner. He's won every meet. I understand right now there's a little bad taste because we haven't gotten the Jesus for Ray battle. But to be honest, he still, to this point, has the biggest natty total ever. Now, Jesus probably could have and should have beat that and will beat that. But as of right now, Ray Williams is still the king of total. And as much talk about coefficient, I still think you have to put in the consideration the biggest natty total that's ever happened.
Yeah, and I think one thing too is like there's a lot of like you got Andre Milanichev, you got Dan Bell, you've got some others who have fought for the top total of all time. I don't think you can take them before Ray because Ray has totaled more than them in sleeves tested. I consider until Jesus is going to beat it, but until Jesus beats it, Ray's 24.52 is the greatest performance in powerlifting history.
Solana, I think
I just
facial expression alone, you have the most disagreement here. So you gotta give us it.
I hear you, and like it's true. Like he brought us to ESPN. He's done so much for the sport. It's just hard for me to call him a GOAT. Like it's just because like he's just been going downhill for so long now. I'm like, is he really a GOAT because he got that total, which is about to be beat by a lot?
That downhill, it was the 24.52 was only 3 meets ago. He hasn't competed in 3 years.
Well, he's
No,
That's not like
never
he's done.
He's
He's a Virginia pro.
last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think we probably likely all agree he's probably not going to beat that total again, mainly because of the injury he has, I think, with his SI joint. But for a super heavyweight, he actually had a decently long reign. That's not
I was gonna
uncommon.
say that. I was gonna say that.
Most super heavyweights have like a meet, and then that's it. They're done. Honestly, probably because he's on the tested side of powerlifting, he was able to do it over like a 3 or 4 year span where we saw consistent progression. Usually it was the Arnold we saw that progression because we always knew his nationals went down because nationals was in the middle of football season, and then worlds he had to travel. So we saw the Arnold in particular, but there was consistent progression for a little while until he just kind of hit the injury bug as well as the issue with worlds with the weight loss. I don't know. Yeah, I still consider his performance the greatest of all time. His 1080 squat, I still think is the single greatest lift of all time. While that shouldn't make you the GOAT, the fact is his deadlift was incredible too. And that's why he was actually able to be a GOAT.
Mm.
And
Well, it's a recency
he was
bias.
face of the sport for at least 3 years too. I mean, he was the face of powerlifting.
Yeah, it's a recency bias thing, I think, with Ray. I think maybe if he calls it
Yeah.
a career of 2019, we're not saying this, but he didn't call it a career, still tried to compete. And the longevity with the super heavyweight's really difficult. I mean, the amount of weight that he had to lift, the amount of bench presses, the squats that he has to take, and then on top of that, a monster deadlift there too. It takes a toll on a lifter. So we don't know what Jesus's future lies for him. He looks about as primed to be one of the GOATs as any lifter right now. But as it stands, Ray Williams has the accolades, has the records, has the performances. And you're absolutely right on that, Steve. He was the guy in powerlifting for about 5 years. He was the guy, like a guy like me who was dabbling in powerlifting. I knew Ray Williams. I saw him on ESPN. I saw a guy squat 1,000 pounds. He was kind of reaching a mainstream audience because he was so good. And it wasn't like he was winning on formula too. When you go to Wilkes, he was winning USAPL meets, best overall on formula. So I knew some eyebrows would be raised on that one, but you also have the advantage of picking next, though, Joey.
Exactly. So my next pick, I'm going to go Mariana Gasparian, the highest dots in classic raw powerlifting by any gender. 709 dots, the only person who has ever dots 700. She also still has the second best raw dots, just behind Christy Hawkins. On top of it, she did 2 different weight classes. And again, the longevity is there. Competed from 2013 up until last year at the Kern, where she retired after, again, winning another money meet.
I hate you. You paid
Yeah,
me
same.
back for taking Sergey. I thought
Exactly.
Mariana should have been in that 5th to 6th range. I mean, she's the greatest female untested lifter. If Kim is the greatest tested, Mariana's the greatest untested.
Any pushback from any of us on this
No.
pick?
I mean, the only pushback with Mariana, the only one I can give you, I felt like some of the lists were suspect sometimes.
I felt like the entire Kern performance was a bit suspect.
I'm about to say, yeah, that's just the current period.
But that's kind of choosing an untested lifter. It's kind of the point.
Yeah. See, I'll actually give the only actual other argument for the lifter I picked is that she arguably ran from Steffi by dropping a weight class without announcing it on what was supposed to be one of the biggest women's head-to-head battles on the untested side. So that was the only reason I didn't pick her earlier, was because in the one time, and she would have beat Steffi, but the one time she was supposed to go head-to-head with Steffi, she dropped weight without announcing it and didn't tell anyone other than the meet director that she was dropping a weight class.
Which is exactly what I'm talking about as far as like a very suspect thing that I don't like. Like, you cannot do that in the IPF and USAPL. You can't just surprise, I'm in a different weight class and do it on like you have to declare a weight class just so there's none of this fuck shit going on. And that's, I guess, my only knock against her. But I mean, she did it. I think it's within the rules too. I don't think there's a rule stating it. So it's not like she cheated or anything. It was just kind of the principle and how it should be a rule.
Well, it was more the meet
There's a
director
reason
that was
why.
breaking the rule by hiding it.
Yeah. I
I think my only knock on Mariana is just the fact that there were some suspect lifts that Like I remember when she broke the Raw, I think it was the tribute meet. She broke the Raw record. That deadlift was a little iffy in the lockout. I mean, that's the only thing I could give. But the fact of the matter is, if you take away that, I mean, she's pretty far and away the greatest of all time on the untested side for women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and retired too. So you kind of don't have like anything recent to say about her. As far as performances go, kind of retired on top there. All right, Steve, what do you got cooking for us?
All right. With this pick, I'm going to guarantee that I will not win any 2 white lights voting. I already picked Sergey Fedoshenko. This one will really guarantee it. But the fact of the matter is anyone that knows anything about powerlifting knows that this person could very well be top 5 if you're truly talking about the history. And that is Laura Phelps.
Good pick.
Yeah, that's a great pick.
The greatest multiply lifter ever, and it's not even close.
Well, hold on. I'm going to interrupt you really quick, Steve. If you listen to episodes 1 through 15 of 2 White Lights, you might get some votes here from our true and faithful fans when we had Bane on, and he was a big multiply guy and loves Laura Phelps. But 15 episodes to 180, probably not.
So there's probably a lot of people listening that has no idea who I'm talking about. You might know her as Queen Bee Power. She just coaches now. She retired in 2014. She was the greatest multiply lifter of all time. Not even close. The men, female. She has every single record. She has record in multiple weight classes. Highest dots of all time. If you're just taking any, I mean, obviously you're going to dots more in multiply than you're going to do in reps, but 795 dots, which is the highest dot score ever. And I'd argue, like, I mean, someone I have of possible picks that we could talk about is Dave Hoff. But my issue with Dave Hoff is the standards he's doing it in are absolute garbage because multiply has gotten terrible. Laura Phelps at least competed back in a time where there was maybe a little bit more standard in multiply. I'm not saying she was squatting IPF depth, but there was a little bit more standard back then before it just got absolutely ridiculous. But I mean, it's not even close if you're talking multiply. And the fact of the matter is yeah, if you started watching powerlifting 3 years ago, you have no idea that multiply is what was powerlifting for a good 20 years. And Laura Phelps was the greatest powerlifter in the world during that time. For that entire time. What Ed Cohn was to, you could say, single ply powerlifting, since he mainly did single ply and multiply, Laura Phelps was the Ed Cohn of the women's side, if not better than Ed Cohn.
Really, the only counter for me is multiply lifting, and you kind of counter that argument with it was set in an era where it was just a better standard. Like, current multiply stuff, I think is garbage, and I think the standard has completely dropped, and also the equipment got ridiculous on top of that too. That's where my knowledge of like history kind of fails, is I don't know exactly when the equipment got really good, because that actually to me matters, because we were comparing records for people who were doing, where Titan singlet was about the same support you get from their or more support than you get from like in the 1990s and 1980s. That's where the recent multiply stuff, like you're probably not going to see a multiply lifter on my list because of that. Laura Phelps will probably.
She's not the Ed Cohn where like she was in the multiply. Ed Cohn was like in like the crappy gear that really wasn't doing. She was in multiply. She wasn't in some like barely supportive gear. But to me, it just doesn't matter because again, for her time period from like, I mean, if you're talking like 1990 to 2015, when multiply was powerlifting, she was the best. Ed Cohn was before that time. Ed Cohn was more the 70s and 80s, I believe. If you're talking 90s and early 2000s, it was all Laura Phelps.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts on Laura Phelps from the gallery?
No, I had her on my list. I wasn't going to pick her this early, so I honestly think it's kind of a steal. I thought she was going to be hanging around near the end of the draft, and I thought I was going to be the one surprised by picking her. So, yeah, Steve just I don't know if it's a reach or a steal, but it definitely was earlier than I was expecting.
It's a steal in the sense of truly what is powerlifting. It's a reach in the sense of if you did a most draft with most people, if Joey wasn't in this, I bet she wasn't going to get picked. If I could have picked her the last pick overall, I bet.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Okay, it's my turn. You
Yes,
can
it is.
tell blatant recency bias, and I'm young, but I'm going with someone who's not been around super long, but does have the second highest total overall, and that's Hunter Henderson.
Ah,
So I'm going with Hunter, second best total period overall. Her DOTS is 687 for reps. It's freaking huge. She keeps improving meet to meet. I do think the one, like, a big knock I will say, but it's just the Kern. Like, I did watch some squats. I was like, are those to death? I'm not sure, but they
Okay.
counted.
all right. Solana, on this one, I might give you way more pushback because Samantha Rice just beat Hunter Henderson.
Oh, did she really?
And-
Recently?
Yeah.
At hybrid.
At hybrid.
Ooh.
I mean,
Oh,
Hunter
yeah, she
Henderson
did.
probably was
She
on
did.
that trajectory to get there, but Samantha, this is not a knock toward. I mean, Samantha Rice is unbelievable, and she deserved that victory, and it was an amazing. It was one of the best female battles that we've seen. And me and Steve commented for that or commentated for that, but that, like, right now, I think Samantha Rice is the person to beat, and Hunter Henderson, I think, is kind of turning her attention elsewhere, and that's where it really hurts her as far as GOAT status.
Yes and no. Here's the thing with Hunter and why I would not have picked her here. She is in the GOAT status if you're just talking reps. I don't know if Hunter's a rap lifter. When you're talking about where she's comparing in the top, it's when she's in reps. She's not quite as accomplished of a raw lifter, and that's where Samantha beat her. I don't know if Sam could beat her in reps because Hunter gets a crap ton out of reps. And that's where she's second all time dots wise to Mariana. But that goes back, if I'm talking GOATs, like, and that's the reason I chose Sergey Fedosienko, is because he's doing it in multiple things. Laura Phelps did it in multiple weight classes. John did it in multiple weight classes and multiple federations. Hunter, I think, in the sense of wrapped division, is a GOAT of female powerlifting. But if we're talking the entirety, which we are, I think that maybe was a little early.
I will say she is, in my opinion, the best female rap squatter that exists, to Steve's point. I've never seen someone get quite it. She gets as much as raps as your gym bro you hear about talking about those get 100 pounds out of raps. It's always a lie. Hunter's is real. Her rap squat is over 100 pounds higher than her best sleeve squat. And honestly, I arguably think she squats deeper in raps than she does in sleeves.
I agree. I thought hybrid it was high, and I thought actually at the meet she just did recently, she was actually deeper. Yeah, that's what I said. I mean, she is a GOAT of raps lifting. Her rap squat is like she's putting on a suit with how much she gets out of it.
I say really hot pick if it was late 2020, early 2021. But because of her last two meets being a loss to Mariana and a loss to Samantha Rice, like, that actually does knock her down a bit. I mean, her numbers still speak for themselves. They're still, all-time great. And yeah, when you put her in reps too, she becomes a much better lifter. But that's just kind of what I see. And granted, her career is kind of ahead of her from what we've seen, but at the same time, I know the aspirations are currently being Miss Olympia. Am I wrong about that? Is that her next thing she's doing, or is there a powerlifting meet in the horizon?
I think she's actually back into powerlifting full time right now. I think she put bodybuilding actually on a hold after getting her pro card, to my understanding. I think she's actually in powerlifting right now. She just did a meet, and I think she's trying to continue to build up. I don't know if she'll make 165 again. She's massive right now. I think she's a 181 for the foreseeable future. But I mean, the realistic thing is there's a new wave of powerlifters becoming very good bodybuilders, and she's in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've seen that recently. And I mean, definitely 181 is the weight class for her. I mean, if you guys want to pull up the side-by-side of me interviewing her at the hybrid, Not my best look. Ryan Lappin talks about getting out angled by Marissa Inda. This was not even close. People are like, oh, she's out angling you. I'm like, nope, not angling me. She is just a bigger human being than me. She has more muscle on her body. She is more muscular than I am. No angles here. She is truly bigger and I am smaller. So you can understand where the bodybuilding background or the aspirations for bodybuilding make sense for her. All right. My pick for number 4. Ooh, I'm having a hard time with this one. But I do get the advantage of back-to-back picks here, right?
Yep.
Gotta love being 4. Oh, God. All right, this one's really hard.
It's going to start really hard now. It's going to get really hard now.
All right, this one's especially hard because it's kind of like more of a fan thing as opposed to maybe the logic.
So
but I'm going to go Dan Bell.
Lifter. Oh, okay.
Nope. Dan Bell. I'm going to go Dan Bell. I could go Milanichev here too, but I'm going Dan Bell because I love Dan Bell. Dan Bell's a fucking man. Dan Bell's in maroon.
I think you have to pick Dan Bell over Milanichev because the only argument for Milanichev is the fact that for a super heavyweight, he had good longevity, but Dan Bell is doing that too. And he has a higher total. I mean, Dan Bell is the best untested super heavyweight of all time. And not just because he had one good meet, but he's been doing it multiple meets in a row.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the raw with reps, I think he's done a few single ply meets in between there too. Dan Bell is I think actually when he competes, the star of the show. He's up there with John Hack and Jamal Browner, which is a very hard thing to do. When they're at meets, Dan Bell is one of the main eventers, and it's for a good reason. He's that damn good. He has that many records. He has the total. He has the big lifts. He's not just a squat guy. He's an all 3 lifts kind of guy. It's a marvel to watch him compete. In my estimation, the best untested super heavyweight of all time.
Everyone loves to see a big total. And you're right. He literally, he's a squatter and bencher and deadlifter. That's the best for a super heavyweight.
The only knock I have on him is he too often he gets some of these biggest totals at these random weird local meets. Now he's done it also at some bigger meets, but a couple times too often he's done this at random local meets, and I don't love that.
Yeah, but I would say he doesn't really hide either from because I think it would be really easy for him just to compete in the APF because I know Florida is really big in the APF and just never do the big meets, and he does all the big meets. So I'm gonna bump him up points for actually doing them, and it's harder to replicate your totals at big meets.
I agree because for the most part he's done big meets more lately. His raw because he holds the raw record. He beat Ray Williams. That was at an RPS meet, and that was the one I thought was a little bit more suspect. But since then, he did that 26:06 at Hybrid Showdown, which was solid. There was no arguments on that one.
Well, and the real, I know for a fact, Dan right now, there's not money involved, he's not competing. So he just competed in Florida at technically a local meet, but there was cash on the line. So at this point, I think if he's doing a smaller local meet, it's because there's a cash prize. And to be honest, I think he's just trying to clean up house, which is why you're also seeing him at all the big meets. He's in it to try to win money. And if there's not money on the line, I don't know if you're going to see Dan on the platform.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Dan Bell is my pick there. A very popular pick, just as popular, of Obsidian Ammonia Smelling Salts. Ladies and gentlemen, go to hypedust.com and get yourself some smelling salts. Steve, do you have some by you? Do you want to just take a little
I have not tried. I tried the tampon nose bleach. Solana, you weren't on this one last time. I determined I actually like this one a lot. It's a nice soft whiff. It doesn't hit you as hard in a good way. It's a little bit more controllable. I have not tried this one. Oh my gosh. I didn't even try and sniff it. I just opened it. I'm scared. I actually remember when I took this one out of the bag, I sniffed the bag and I actually thought my nose started bleeding.
All right, put the tampon in once
Let's
the
do
nose
it.
starts
Oh
bleeding.
my gosh.
Yeah. That is obsidian ammonia smelling salts.
I didn't even, I was just breathing and I didn't even get it
that's
close to me.
So far from your nose.
All right,
Yes.
use that promo code
Good
2WL15 if you guys like some strong smelling salts, and they differ in
Why is this being a
ranges.
thing?
I like how you're only doing it too. I said I was gonna do it. I never have. But I compete, so I gotta actually like save the I don't want to get too used to smelling salts and just do
You
them
will not
randomly
get
on a
used to
podcast.
that. That was pungent beyond belief.
Yes. So if you go to
That's-
hypedose.com, they range in strength as well. Like Steve said, they have different strengths. This might be the strongest, Steve. Would you say?
That one right there is the strongest I've ever smelled in my life. Again, I actually like the little tampon one because I can control it a bit more. That one was so strong that like I don't even know how I could like control sniffing that one.
All right. Well, go to hypedose.com, use that promo code 2WL15. Check out all the merchandise they have. They're at a ton of meets. They are an awesome brand that gives back to the sport. So remember, promo code 2WL15, hypedose.com. And for my fourth pick, I'm going Russ Orhe. I just guaranteed I win, right?
God,
I win.
It's not a terrible.
win.
It's not a bad pick, but you are literally
No, it
doing
isn't.
that just to you are doing that though just to get the fan vote because you
You are.
just
You say
guaranteed
that.
it.
You
No,
say
you
that.
are. We all know you are. Stop
I can't
smiling
think of
while
another
you're saying it. You are literally smiling while you're trying to explain this. You liar. You Italian
think
crook.
another person. I can't think of another person I had put on this list for my fourth pick, which, by the way, like I made sure to make it a point that I picked Dan Bell third and Russ Orhe fourth. So I'm making that a point. I didn't pick Russ Orhe third. All right. I can't think of what to pick in this spot aside from him. Let's go back to round number one. John Hack, 83 kg GOAT for a long time. Russ Orhe has pushed that record far and above and beyond, and has, in my opinion, one of the more stacked weight classes just in the USAPL and IPF, just in general. 83 kilos. The most amount of lifters go there. Most amount of lifters compete in that weight class, and he has dominated for a very long time. 5-time national champion, 2-time world champion. He's really easily got the world record. I think the next closest person is about 15 kilos away from it. So he's the best in that weight class. He's got the longevity, and we talked about it on the podcast. He's becoming just an amazing platform performer where you can kind of guarantee he's going 8 for 9 or 9 for 9 every single time he competes. And here's just the thought here. Is there another guy in the sport, if he did the John Hack route and went to the untested side, he just fucking take every single record and probably have the same success, if not better, as John Hack? I don't think I can find an answer. Russ Orhe would be that guy.
Bob and Ashton.
Yeah, Bob and Ashton.
And honestly,
I would say
again,
I would go Russ.
Russ deserves to likely be somewhere around here, but you're picking him over Ashton. And Ashton actually has been winning national championships just as long as Russ. Ashton has won IPF Worlds, and Ashton has
was
higher
it
dot
open?
score.
Was it Open Worlds?
No, he
No,
won a
it
junior.
wasn't.
It was
No. Okay. So it was Open Worlds, and Ash.
You've got
Ashton
Bonica Brown
was a-
on here, one of the most
Bonica.
decorated people.
Jesus
Bonica. One of the most decorated.
And all the
I don't
hate-
know.
and all the
Again,
hate is on.
I could have so many arguments here, and I'm just gonna go in on the fact that you are doing this just to get the vote.
And if I beat him, put me on the fucking list. All right, that works both ways for me.
There's 13 tested lifters with a better dots right now than Russ Orhe, and Russ is not a lifter from the past. That's where I wouldn't put him here.
Are they 5-time national champions and 2-time world champions? All of them?
I mean, there's one up here that arguably would be a better pick at this point, Amanda Lawrence.
Well, shut up. Maybe someone else can pick her.
Again, nothing
Look at my
against
team,
Russ.
though.
He deserves.
Look at
Yeah,
fucking
look at
team.
your team. You literally are
What a
already got all the
team.
votes. Taylor, Kim,
What a
Russ Orhe.
team.
Just wrap it up. You got the 2 white lights votes.
17-year-olds with the fucking undercut curly hair, dangling earring are gonna love this goddamn. And guess
Angela's
what?
we all know.
And make
Andrew
one of
will
them.
make Wheeze next.
Yeah, he probably
Oh,
will.
please do.
He probably will.
Please do.
Oh, we don't put junior teen we don't take a lot of stock in high school national championships on here. But all right, and now whatever, I'm going with it.
Good.
All right.
Number 4.
All right. So my
All right.
next pick, we're moving on from Russell.
Yes.
My next pick is Bonica Brown. Why Bonica Brown? 11-time IPF world champion, both raw and equipped. And she's been like longevity, like been competing since 2003 and keeps winning. And you can kind of say, like, just like we talked about Ray and Jesus, like there's Bonica and Alexis Jones, and Alexis will probably come up and beat her in the future, but like that hasn't happened yet. Like she still has the best total overall for 84 plus in the world.
Yeah. I think Bonica's, it's kind of like it's just a fantastic pick. Maybe could have actually gone a little bit higher. I do think you could earn that third round there.
But,
I think with the accolades, so if we look at third round here, I mean, even to go to second accolades, there's no one really quite like Bonica. I think her and Kim probably have the most accolades. I think she's another person at weight class hurts her. She doesn't get the big formula stuff. But single ply too? I think probably the most undervalued pick is Bonica Brown right now, just because of how high she possibly could have been. I mean, there's arguments she could be in the first round too. And it's even more undervalued because Steve's going to mispronounce her name for the entire podcast.
for the rest of his life.
Yeah. Just not make any effort to correct it. Steve, you're awfully silent.
No pushback.
Because I am trying to figure out my next pick while you all are talking, because I'm so torn between like 6 or 7 people on who I'm going to pick next. I have no idea.
Yeah, have we decided, are we doing 5 or 8 rounds? Because that does matter for my next picks.
We're not
probably
gonna
have to
do
make
8,
the decision right now.
We're not going to do 8. I think we can do 6. We're at about an hour right now, I think.
Yeah.
So you want to do 6? We'll do 6 rounds.
That
We
works.
can do 6.
Good.
Okay, we'll do 6. So me and you, Joey, have 3 more picks. Cool.
All right, but any other thoughts on Bonica Brown here? I mean, just
No, I think
It
it's the
seems like a
deserved
general
spot.
consensus.
quality pick. You made up for your Hunter Henderson pick, I think, Solana.
Yeah,
Guys, I
think if you
panicked.
flip-
I panicked.
I think if you flip those, I'd actually be less upset, to be honest.
Yeah, but you got both of them technically, so I guess you're good, right? You got both, so
They're on the team.
All right.
It's all good. Moving on.
Mr. Denovi, what do you got?
I'm debating if I'm just going to go fully in on just getting dead last in the fan vote here, and I think I am.
Go for it.
I'm going for it. Gene Bell.
Good pick.
Oh, that is my guy. That is my favorite person.
Gene Bell.
Cigar
That's a good pick.
Gene Bell.
Just go to his open powerlifting from 1973 to 2006. All it is a bunch of first place. IPF, USPF, APF, USAPL. He is one of the most decorated lifters of all time, multi-weight class. Now it is single ply. Again, this is going back to like a lot of, actually, I think Gene Bell might be one that more people might know, because if you didn't know, Gene Bell was Ashton's mentor.
Yeah.
I don't know if he got Ashton into powerlifting, but Ashton, I think he did. Gene Bell is Ashton's mentor who got him like going. He's arguably the greatest.
As a son competing too, Ian Bell.
Yeah, Ian Bell, his son, who competes, who's one of the best single ply lifters in the world right now. But if you're talking like historically, like single ply lifters, in the IPF side, I don't know if anyone is better than Gene Bell. Maybe Sergey Fedoshenko. There's a couple others, Yaroslav Olek, who you could kind of put in there. But if we're talking longevity, Gene Bell is probably the greatest IPF single ply lifter of all time.
That was kind of a pick I knew was going to drop a little bit. I was hoping to get it towards the later rounds, just because Gene Bell's my.
You were never
guy.
picking Gene Bell. You're only picking
with the list you have,
people who have at least have. You're only picking people who have over 50,000 followers and have specific levels of clout.
And Gene Bell goes through all that because him and I shared a cigar in Daytona, and Gene Bell's my best friend. So watch your fucking mouth, Steve. You're talking about my best friend.
Oh my god.
No, Gene Bell. Me and Ash we're not just talking about. We're talking about like, yeah, he was a guy who was doing insane things, and he was in this the absolute one of the oldest stages you could have in powerlifting and doing crazy things with kind of equipment, kind of like ace bandage, wrap, knee sleeves, or wraps, or whatever the hell they were using, and doing amazing things. I think it's a solid pick. A good pick. Longevity definitely is there. I think there's certain people in the sport that might give you pushback on it. I've had Gene Bell debates before, defending him while other people are kind of knocking him down a little bit.
Like you checking like the accomplishment part, or like I've definitely heard people who do not think he's natural, but I don't agree there.
Yeah, but both.
Because he definitely was kind of in a time back in the Egg Cone time where supposedly IPF was not natural, and it was just like you did it until you got caught. But the fact of the matter is, he did it until 2002. So he definitely got into a time where it was more heavily tested. But yeah, I don't think anyone can argue in the sense if you're talking single ply lifting, he arguably is one of the greatest ever, if not the greatest ever.
Yep, and I'm always going to defend my best friend Gene Bell. Me and Ian shared a Zoom cigar too, so that was good. Good luck to Ian, by the way, who's competing at World Games this week.
And Bonica.
And Joe Cat. And a lot of other great lifters. All right, Joe Bags.
All right, I'm going to go with the pick Angelo should have done if he wasn't going for clout and go Amanda Lawrence. Arguably the female Taylor Atwood, where even at her best still dominates worlds and arguably won the best battle that we've had at IPF Worlds ever in 2019. So I 3-time IPF champ. The only knock is that her best total ever was done in a local meet. But again, even without her best total, she's still beating everyone. So every argument we put for Taylor going in the first round, I'm getting with Amanda Lawrence at the last pick of the 4th round.
Yeah, really. I mean, because it's 4th round, I think she would be on pretty much everyone's list. Her successes came though 2018 on. So I think you saw her. I mean, because it was kind of Daniela Mello's show. Then 2019, Amanda Lawrence solidified herself there, and it is kind of crazy. We haven't seen the best Amanda Lawrence yet, I think, but she's still dominating meets. Minus this one, and she kind of sandbagged it for Sheffield purposes, where Tiffany Chapone ended up winning best overall lifter.
Yeah.
Thoughts? Anyone? I know there's got to be disagreements here, right? No? All right.
Sweet.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I honestly, at this spot, I can't disagree because she should have gone earlier. If she went like in the 2nd round, maybe I have some disagreements, but at this spot right here, I don't think I can that was a big value pick at that point. Honestly, I thought all 3 were value picks other than Russ. Russ was the reach in this round for Cloud.
No, hold on. No, this is bullshit. I mean, if we're going, because we're kind of cutting through IPF points and we're cutting through formulas and dots and all that stuff. Russ Orhii is more accomplished than Amanda Lawrence, technically, right? 5-time national champion, 2-time world champion. Amanda Lawrence is a 3-time world champion. Didn't win nationals the year in 2019.
I could go with the argument that yes, Amanda did have arguably the greatest battle ever with Daniela Mello, but that was one time. Other than that, she's never had really any competition. Where Russ arguably has had whether it's close or not, I don't think he's ever gone into a meet as like untouchable. Like there's always been the thought, could someone beat him? He's never been untouchable like Amanda's been untouchable, where like you literally knew off of openers she was just going to win and it was just going to be silly. Russ always has to execute. So you know what? I could see, I get an argument there.
I'm best lifter twice.
Okay.
What do you say,
Yeah,
Solana?
she's won best. You saying like Russ is more accomplished, but like at Worlds, like Russ is not winning best lifter. He's not that.
Yeah,
but
but
if I'm going to be honest here, formula doesn't really help 82 and a half for 83s. We're kind of in that middle there.
well, also because you're barely out totaling Taylor Atwood, who is a weight class down.
Man, fuck that.
There is something to say about winning best overall lifter, but she can do that because she doesn't have to worry about attempts against a competitor. She can literally plan out her attempts to beat Leah, since she competes after her, and since she doesn't have to defend anyone else in second place.
Yep, but she did also win best lifter in that battle. The one battle she had, she still won best lifter.
Yeah, which was, I think, a given that year. I think that the thing was who wins that battle is going to be the best overall lifter. I mean, no arguments for me. I'm just getting sick and tired of guys calling Russ Orhii a reach. I mean, we're going to say he's a 6th round because then it'll be a reach because if you're going to take him the 4th. But, I mean, he would definitely be taken this round. Speaking of this round, Joey, who's your next pick?
All right, I'm going to go maybe a controversial pick. I'm not sure. I'm going to go Eric Lillibridge, who still holds the 140 wrap all-time world record. It's been held now for 6 years, which in today's age of records feels like they're being broken, especially on the untested side every month. To still hold a record in a heavier weight class untested for 6 years is a pretty heavy accomplishment. He also competed at Big Dogs 3 times at around 308 pounds body weight, where most of the competitors were almost 400, if not over 400 pounds. And he actually had Big Dogs was total only, but he had the best dots twice in Big Dogs. That's not a meet that's gone by coefficients.
I had him pulled up as maybe my next pick, so I can't have any disagreement here.
Good job, Joey.
He was
Excellent.
He was someone I was looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I got started in sport in 2016, he was the guy. Just on the untested side, I get maybe there was a thing, me being in Illinois and him and his brothers trained at gym out in Aurora that really added to it. But yeah, you really couldn't go on powerlifting long enough to like out hearing the Lillibridge's name, and it was because of Eric. Eric was such a fucking beast that he was up there as far as best lifters go within that era. I think only reason why you drop him down is because just other lifters have competed, and I think there's a recency bias with certain lifters. I mean, he's not active on the platform. I don't know if he's retired, I'm assuming. I don't know if he's announced anything ever, but
yeah, I think he's retired. He moved to Australia, and I think he's got a family now, and it seems like that's more important.
Yeah, so maybe like I think that would be the only reason why you do this list 2 years ago, 4 years ago. Lillibridge is probably within the first 2 rounds. So, still on Team Joey Bags. All right, Steve, what do you got?
This is getting so hard. I honestly, I could go 10 rounds because I prepared unlike some people because I've got so many I want to pick right now.
I'm just thinking what USAPL let's try and pick next.
Yeah, of course you are. I'm going to go this one because I think she might get picked. And honestly, I think she should have gotten picked round 3 by Solana. I'm going Christy Hawkins. Christy Hawkins, for every argument that I said, I think Hunter could be more here, and I think Christy should have been where Hunter is because Christy is both good at wraps and raw. She has the highest ever raw dots, and I believe she has like the 6th ever wrap dots, but that's because she hasn't. That was back to like 2019, and she's blown up since then. Honestly, I think if she put wraps on, she likely. I think she honestly, if she put wraps on, she could possibly beat Mariana's dots total. And if she did that, we would be talking about Christy in the 2nd or 3rd round easily, and probably maybe even ahead of Mariana if she was to do that.
And on another point on Christy, she had one of the coolest moments I've seen in person at the Showdown last year, shredding a bicep, finishing a pull on a torn bicep, and then only looked mildly confused and annoyed that she tore her bicep pulling over 600 pounds. It was one of powerlifters act tough and powerlifters aren't tough. It was one of the toughest moments I've seen from a powerlifter was her locking out a deadlift with a torn bicep and then just looking mildly annoyed and then having to be convinced to not go out for another deadlift.
I didn't know that last part. I didn't know that last part there. That's insane. But yeah, when I
Wasn't
saw
that
the
her
video, I'm
third?
like, oh,
Wasn't
that's a second, I thought.
No, it was a second. Yeah.
I just remember watching. I'm like, oh, that's a bicep tear. And you know, when you see bicep tears, you immediately see the bar hit the ground. She finished the lockout, and it kind of like made me thought my mind was playing tricks on me. Like, did I see a bicep tear? Because she kind of just nonchalantly threw it off, and she shook her head like it was a technical problem, not that her bicep ripped in half. So yeah, that was crazy, and I would agree with you.
So the last time Christy did reps, she squatted 628, and 2 months later, she squatted 507 raw. If you just take that 628 rep squat and put it to her current total, that puts her to 692 dots, but she now squats raw 578, which is 70 pounds more than she did back in 2019. She could viably squat 660 to 670, and if she did that, that would put her 707 dots, which I think is just barely behind Mariana. So yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts? Yeah. Again, Solana. I'm gonna keep on going back to your Hunter Henderson pick. I think Chrissy Hawkins probably should have been there. And you just missed it. Yeah. What's your next pick?
My next pick's also controversial anyway, so it doesn't matter. I'm giving it to Leah Bavois. And I know it's kind of wild because she just like missed weight and didn't even compete. But at the same time, she's legit like what her last total was over 100 pounds more than what won Rose this year. We had a 3-way battle for pulling for the win. Like she's still way above everyone in 63 in every country. And even if she goes up to 69, she'll still be very competitive. So she's a very competitive person. She won 2 IPF Worlds. And if you look at her open powerlifting, she started in 2015. And besides 2 meets, it's all first place.
Yeah, I think the big knock for me is just longevity. You don't really see the longevity. And on top of that, like, she's kind of dominated a weight class. Not really, though. Missing weight this year is a huge knock against her, in my opinion. Granted, I think she could go up at 69 and win. But was it 2019? It was Kalora who won that weight class. So it's not necessarily been Leah just dominating the scene. I think it's like power rankings wise, Leah is that pick because of how good she's been recently, but she doesn't have the longevity. Really, I think of everyone on this list, she has probably the least amount of accolades. Granted, though, it's round 5. So we might start getting into some reaches here.
And you're not wrong. I think she does have the least amount of accolades, but I still see her having a longer reign or a long reign in front of her, not longer. But
I could kind of put her like I think if we do this in another 5 years, Jesus Oliveras could very well be in those first 2 rounds. He might even be before Ray. I see that as Leah. Like, I don't know if Jesus is going here because 1, he hasn't beat race total. 2, it's only a couple of years. I kind of see Leah in that same bit, but the difference is this is just the fact of the matter. Women's powerlifting is, for lack of a better word, newer than men. We have a lot more of a pool of men that date back to the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s where women's powerlifting, it existed, which is one reason why Laura Phelps just dominated it for so long in the multi-fly scene. But really, women's powerlifting has blown up. So we have a bit less to kind of pick from in the sense of longevity. And so I can see how you do have to take a little bit more recency bias because Leah is just destroying everything we thought was possible. And it's partially because like it's just kind of it's a newer trend that women are powerlifting.
Yeah, that makes sense on my end. That explanation there. I thought when you said that, it wouldn't be funny if I just picked Jesus Oliveras next, and just completely racked up on these.
Yeah, on these I mean he could deserve to be on here, but I don't know. I wouldn't argue about him being on this list somewhere, but it would be the same argument I have against Leah is like the longevity of it. But the difference is we're going to have less women with the same longevity. We're not going to see as many women with 10, 15 years, other than like Kim and Jen, versus men, we're going to have a lot more to pick from in that sense.
I think it's hard too because Jesus, like, even though this meet was like kind of controversial with the calls, like he didn't do anywhere near what he thought he would at this meet at IPF.
Well, I was just gonna say, yeah, like I mean, Leah Bavall.
I don't think Leah did very close either.
Yes, but she straight up didn't do anything.
Yeah, that's a very good point there. If this is a keeper draft, it'd be a fantastic pick.
That'd be a great pick.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, you would probably go in the first 2 rounds with Leah and the other young lifters there. But all right, I'm so unsure about my next 2 picks. I gotta not fuck this up on the tail end here. But I could tell you what I'm not unsure about, and that's the quality of Stoic gear. Ladies and gentlemen, go to lift.net and get yourself Stoic gear. They have the best powerlifting equipment there is. I wear Stoic gear in the gym and on the platform because it is the best. And also for everyone wearing it, you know it is quality and it's the most affordable. You won't break the bank. You're not spending money just on a logo. You're spending money on the quality. Use promo code Angelo10 to save yourself some money on Stoic gear. Go to lift.net, save yourself some money on the singlet, wrist wraps, knee sleeves, belts. They got it all. And they're getting more colorways. Just you be patient, ladies and gentlemen. They'll get there. All right. Now I stalled, and I still don't have an answer because I was so focused on that.
I'll pick for you because the Oracle already knows who you're taking.
No.
With the next 2 picks.
Hold on. Who do you think I'm going to take?
It's very obvious. You're taking Brett Gibbs and Jessica Bittner.
No, I actually, believe it or not, Gibbs was not on my list, even though he could have been. You know what? I think because Milanic dropped so much that I think he's a solid pick. I mean, I'll go with him.
That's a good pick. I was between him and Lowbridge at my pick.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not like I want to go with like my fans pick here and go with someone else. But yeah, if I was deciding between him and Dan Bell, in round 3, getting him at 5th, I think a good value pick here. Steve, you have a little condescending smirk on your face. What's that about?
No, I like it. The one issue I have with Andrei Milanichev is I don't think we ever got to see him go all out. Because it's I don't know how much of a myth this is versus true, but it was talked about how like if you set records in Russia, you would get prizes. And so he would only chip his record so that it was easier to get paid by the Russian government each time or whatever it was. I don't know the truth to that, but we just never saw him go out. I honestly wonder what would have happened if he ever went all out, because I don't think he ever truly like fully pushed at a meet. It was always a meet. He just always made things look so easy. But I mean, like you go back 4 or 5 years ago, I mean, any meet he did, that was the guy to watch. Before there was Jamal Browner and Hack and Dan Bell, it was Andrei Milanichev. That's why you tuned into I'm trying to think of what was Dan Green's meet that he always held that Milanichev set the squat record there.
Boss of Bosses.
Yeah, Boss of Bosses. That was the big one then. Even though I think Jeremy Hamilton might have won that meet, which most people probably don't even know who I think Jeremy maybe he did. Either way, I remember very much vividly watching Boss of Bosses and Andrei Milanichev breaking the squat record and total record that meet.
Yeah. I guess the later rounds here, I mean, I'm kind of dismissing some of his accomplishments and I picked him, so I kind of feel like a dick about that. But yeah, I like taking him 5th there. Especially he's got the total too to back it up. It's not just formulas we're talking about totals. God, this next pick's fucking hard. I might just go random fan pick here. Shit. Sam Calhoun. I'm going Sam Calhoun with my last pick. I think she is one of the best female USAPL lifters of all time. She won IPF World's Best Lifter once and competed in 63 kilo weight class. She was a lifter there recently, more of Leah, definitely Leah's weight class. Kalora beat her in 2019. But I want a little bit more. I mean, fuck, I just love Sam Calhoun as a lifter. and
She's
USAPL.
never,
Like that's like
I love Sam Calhoun. She's never won IPF Worlds, even her weight class.
oh, she hasn't? I thought she won best overall
No,
lifter. 1 year.
everyone thinks she has. Everyone.
She
has
not only has
won.
not won best overall lifter, she has not won her weight
Why?
class.
Why has people thought that? Or why?
Why hats?
I don't.
I don't
can't
know.
even tell you.
You tell us, because you just picked her over people who have
Solana
won
just
IPF
said-
World
wait,
Champions.
Solana just said everyone thinks that, but it's not true.
Everyone
Why?
does.
It just happened.
I don't know.
How does it-
Like,
how does it happen to me?
like people talk about all the time. People have come to me and be like, "Yeah, blah blah." I'm like, she's not a world champion.
I'm like the Yankees announcer right now of like when he thought John Carlos Stanton hit a home run, and it's like, what did I do wrong? All right. Well, I'm still picking Sam.
Well, yeah, because you already picked her. You're not going back on it.
Yeah,
You can't go back.
I already hit the button. I mean, I still think she's one of the best lifters if you put her on a list of all time. Yeah, I guess I fucking thought she won IPF Worlds. I don't know. She won best overall lifter, USAP National, definitely.
Sam's amazing, but unfortunately, I think there's a lot of people that have won IPF World Championships that could have been picked instead.
But Angela will get the votes for that.
Yes, Angela will get the votes for that.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's a chop on my end. All right. Go move on, I guess.
It's my turn,
I don't know,
right?
yeah.
All right, I'm taking Jess Buettner.
See, that was gonna be my pick too. I guess I went a little bit more fan on that one, where I just like Sam's one of my favorite lifters.
She's one of my favorite people, but Jess Buettner is
Wow.
Bittner.
Wow.
Bittner.
Butner.
Whatever. Won multiple IPF World Champion. I think she won 3 IPF World Championships. She's had big. I mean, this past year was a huge battle with her and Agata, and she had the biggest deadlift in IPF history. And she had to do that under pressure because if she didn't get it, she would have got second place. So that takes a lot. And yeah, she did not. What, second place? Like almost got best lifter, not quite, but second. So extremely close, closer than Russell Orhe. So I just.
Yeah, I mean, Bittner's a great pick. I think it's a little bit of because she's at the top right now. I think she's going to go down in the first 2 rounds of this. By the end of her career, she keeps up at it. I don't know if she's incredible and one of the strongest lifters in the world. I don't know if she's done it long enough for me, but to be honest, she's done it longer than some of the people on this list. So I guess that's a new argument.
I would pick her over Leah, probably, in my opinion.
Same.
I agree.
But I mean, we say all these things, but at the end of the day, she's Canadian, so that's got to knock her down just a bit, right? Like,
yep.
No, it does not.
I love that soundbite. I love that soundbite that it actually sticks with. Like, you can take that and just like, what the fuck did he just say? But no, I'm just joking. I think just as far as late round, good pick. 3-time IPF world champion or 2?
2. 1 junior, 2 open.
Okay.
I mean, I think Canada's most famous athlete behind Brett the Hitman Hart and Wayne Gretzky. So he's got that too. And every hockey fan just got pissed at me.
It goes
every
Wayne
hockey
Gretzky,
fan.
Bret Hart, Blake Barrett, then Jessica Bittner.
Yeah. No.
Wait,
yeah.
I thought Drake was Canada's most popular lifter.
Blake? He was on the SBD ad.
I thought Drake was the best athlete in Canada.
He's if you see him do shoot-arounds, he's probably the best basketball player in Canada. Because American players. Oh no, there was Steve Nash. Never mind. I know too much about sports. I can't disrespect Steve Nash that way. But Drake is a close second. All right. Steve, what's your pick?
Steve.
I hate that we're doing 6 rounds. At the end of this, I'm going to list off the people I've got because the fact of the matter is there's so many people that should be on this. This one, oh my gosh, I don't know. I've got like 10 people I want to pick with this pick, but I have a sentimental pick that I feel like I'm going to have to go with. And honestly, I think this person, if they had dedicated themselves to powerlifting, would have probably easily been the greatest power lifter of all time. I could actually say this for a couple of the people I have, but this one in particular, 1979. In 1979, this person hit a 2,425 pound total in 1979. So we know it wasn't with any kind of special equipment. And that man is Bill Kazmaier.
That's a great pick.
Good pick.
You could
You got
argue
You
the
have the most
longevity there.
You have the most logical team for sure.
Well, wait until I get to the other one. I again, after Joey makes his pick, I'm going to go through my rest because it's a shame that we're going to not get enough of these in here. But like Bill, the argument is that he went the world's strongest man. But arguably, I think till this day, like people would argue Bill Kazmaier may be the strongest human being to ever walk the face of the earth. I think him and Zydrunas Savickas are the two strongest human beings. That's the other person I was kind of debating here, along with like 10 others. But
I mean, you could throw Mark Henry in that too. If people, if they would have dedicated to powerlifting, probably could have been the strongest person ever.
But
well, I mean, Bill Kazmaier and Mark Henry were kind of like heir apparents, right? They both had kind of the same accolades. They both were in professional wrestling and I mean, they got mainstream success too. Bill Kazmaier was in the WCW. Great pick. Longevity. You went all the way back into the 70s. And I'm the boomer, apparently.
Damn Mark Henry for becoming a millionaire instead of becoming the best powerlifter of all time.
Yeah, why did he sell out that way and become
or Bill Kazmaier too? I'm sure he became much wealthier by doing World's Strongest Man than if he did powerlifting.
Mm-hmm. Both of them. Yeah, I think that was the thing back then. It's like, well, you're an incredibly strong human being. Let's try to make as much money off this as possible. And yeah, apparently WWE was watching more of World's Strongest Man than powerlifting. Who would have thought?
Yeah. And sentimental pick because my dog is named after Bill Kazmaier.
What's your dog's name though?
Kaz.
Okay, good. Because if you went Bill, I would have been like, what a fucking lame dog.
My last dog was Mars after Mariusz Pujanowski.
Ooh.
But Mars passed away last year.
Oh. All right, Mariusz Pujanowski, big time hero in Lamont High School because 90% of the school was Polacks, so they loved him. All right, last pick.
Joey.
All right, so I'm between two. One would get more votes, and one's really where I'm going to go. I'm going to give my consolation first. This is not my pick, but I really want to go with Dan Green right now because he's who got me into powerlifting. But I can't do it, especially after his last meet. That bench press shouldn't have counted. And he got hurt and didn't do it as long as I wish he could have. I'm going to go with my pick, Captain Kirk Kowalski.
Okay.
He honestly, I didn't know this until I started digging into this. In 2004, did a raw meet in the AAU championships and beat the best single ply total by 50 or almost 100 pounds. Raw beat the second best total, which was single ply by 100 pounds at 242. Talk about longevity from 83 up to 2004. He really was in that generation of making powerlifting what it is today and did it in raw, wraps, and single ply.
All right. Yeah, I think a fantastic pick there. I mean, did he do multiply too?
Nope.
No.
Okay. Just wondering towards that. Now, I'm going to ask you guys this question because do we have any pushback on that, Steve, Solana?
No, but Dan Green I was also debating him because of the fact of him getting me into powerlifting somewhat. I was debating that one was tough not to pick. That one would get picked in the next two rounds if we were still going, I think.
I
was too, but I didn't want to pander, you know? So
that would literally be my next pick. In my notes, it says, welcome to generation of powerlifting. Because I think anyone that started between 2014 and 2016 is partly in the sport because of Dan Green.
I was going to ask you guys, who would be the best male equip lifter of all time, would you say?
I got three. A single ply?
Well, let's go multiply because you put Laura Phelps in here as your multiply lifter. So let's go multiply.
I mean, Dave Hoff.
They're left
Yeah,
off. Yeah, they're left. No matter who it is, they're left off the list. So that's
Chuck
what I want to know.
Chuck Vogelpaul, if he had any like brain whatsoever when it came to like attempt selection and like being about his wits, Chuck Vogelpaul likely would have been based off of his supposed gym list. But Dave Hoff is the best multiply lifter.
The only argument, the only name, and I actually don't know this lifter, but just based on stats, is, and I'm going to butcher his last name, Kale Ransanen from Finland, who has almost as good a coefficient score as Dave Hoff, has also done it in Classic Raw. But yeah, I agree. Dave Hoff's probably the answer, Mr. 3K. I just, to Steve's point from earlier, I wish he did it to a better standard.
Sean Frankel's another one too.
Yeah, just wondering
because if you go look at his, he dominated multiply for a long time.
Because once we release these lists, we're just gonna piss off the 2 multiply people that listen to 2 White Lights. So just really want to get your opinions on that. Because I guess my list would be the same. I would go Vogelpohl just because of the name.
He arguably had the most. I mean, he arguably had one of the biggest influences on all powerlifting because of who he was, and people still wearing beanies and meets to this day, and SPF and APA meets just because of him.
Yes, it was a great look too. All right, so Steve, give us the greatest hits here.
Okay, I'm gonna go through my rundown of people that we did not list. We just said 1, or actually said 2: Dave Hoff and Chuck Vogelpaul. I mean, they could have easily been on here. The next one, this is the one that I was, before we got on air, I was quizzing you that I knew, likely none of you knew who it was. This person had the raw total record for years until Ray broke it. I believe he was the first, not the first ever. He was a world's strongest man, Don Reinhout.
No, I've never heard that name.
Not going to pretend like it.
Okay, next up, honestly, someone that I almost picked in my last pick, Larry Williams. He's kind of a meme now, but he still holds top 3 records in 3 different weight classes.
No, fuck that. I'm not. No,
yeah,
not happening.
I couldn't put him there.
Okay,
fuck that.
Going from there, you got Mark Henry, Zydrunas Savickas, who is actually a fantastic IPF lifter. I honestly just don't think the reason I would go Bill Kazmaier is Bill Kazmaier actually put up a total that to this day would win meets. Zydrunas never really spent enough time in powerlifting, but I honestly think Zydrunas Savickas is the strongest static lifter in the history of mankind. Like if he would have powerlifted, he would have probably totaled something that was completely untouchable. Andy Bolton, a fan favorite, Zahir Kudayarov. From there, 2 people that I almost picked, and I was Blaine Sumner or Yaroslav.
I miss Blaine Sumner. That's on my.
He should have. I really kept debating between Gene Bell and Blaine, and I kind of wish I went Blaine Sumner there. That was a tough one.
Sam Calhoun, you owe me dinner.
No.
I picked you over Blaine Sumner. Oh, that just slipped me. Oh shit! I'm
someone who's not very known, but I believe I might be wrong on this. I might be wrong. Mike Bridges. I believe he may be one of the only people to ever beat Ed Cohn in a meet. I might be wrong in of who that is, but Mike Bridges is one of the greatest ever. Jesse Norris. Honestly, I probably would have picked him. I could have picked him if it wasn't for the fact that it was the SPF record breakers meet that was held in Lore, and he never really did it in a meet that counted. Ashton Rauska, I think he definitely should have been on here somewhere. Dennis Cornelius, Mike Teixeira, Bryce, Christoph Wierzbicki, Ellis McLean, Dave Ricks, all people who have won IPF.
They would be on a list. They would be on a list. All right, fuck you.
Brian Siders. He's a lesser known single ply lifter. Andres Stanisic, the greatest squatter in the history of mankind. If you don't know who Andres Stanisic is, go look him up. He has the single greatest squat in history. Andrei Belyaev. I don't know him I have no idea who he is. All I know is that he is a ridiculously strong single ply lifter and may be the best single ply lifter of all time. Going to women untested, Steffi Cohen, Cece Holcomb, Stacy Bird, April Mathis, and then women on the tested side that we didn't talk about, Corolla, Daniela.
Yeah.
April Mathis has the highest total. I almost picked her raw and wraps for all women. So that was a missed opportunity from all of us, I think.
Yeah. Man.
A lot of people.
Yeah, Blaine Sumner's
We could have easily, if it wasn't for time, because we didn't want to go crazy with this.
And we're already close to 2 hours.
Yeah, we could have easily gone 10 rounds. No problem. No ifs, ands, or buts. We could have gone 10 rounds.
You said if I would have had the fucking board, it would have been a little bit easier.
Oh my God.
If you would have researched versus hopping on. Here's the board.
Hopefully I win. Hopefully I win.
On here. Yeah, you're going to win because you
I don't know about that now. Because if I would have, all right. Yeah.
I don't think I can't win because I picked people that no one knew. No one's
you also picked John Hack. You could win with John Hack.
Yeah, I could.
I could have picked Jamal Browner. Fuck. That would have been an easy vote for most people. Actually, going through these lists is like because I'm looking at the Q&A that we did. Really, it's not. I mean, there's your greatest hits in there, but there's a lot of ones I'm like, what? Okay, people are just listing off their favorite lifter, which is nice of them. But every lifter who's your favorite lifter is the GOAT, right? I've been called the GOAT way too many times in my career. I know that for a fact. So I'm actually curious to drop these. Fuck yeah.
I'm scared.
Team of 6. Well, it's good. I mean, we could talk. I mean, hopefully they listen to the podcast and just know that there's a shit ton of snubs and a bunch of people we could have put on here.
We talked about it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Well, I was gonna say we talked about it. This went well. That we were gonna do more of these, and likely it's gonna be a lot easier if we just do like a tested one. We do an untested one. We can actually like get into a lot of. I shouldn't have even read my board because now I'm gonna throw out some people that like I wish I could have kept secret, and now Angela knows about them.
All of which have been great. Alice McLean would have been. I mean, speak of longevity. Dennis Cornelius. The blame Sumter thing.
Lane Norton. How did you not ping Lane Norton, Angelo?
Seriously?
Yeah.
For real? No, yeah. I'm not doing that. I mean, granted, like the numbers he was hitting back in the day, but like when he got hurt, now his numbers are pretty much equivalent to like an 83 kilo lifter.
Joey should have picked Garrett Fear with his final pick.
He'd have to do well in meets for
that. Yeah, good point. I mean, yeah, I think even if he did well in meets, I don't think he should be on any GOAT list. And that's, I mean, I think Garrett would definitely agree with that.
Well, I'm more just saying. Like,
I had a blast. I had a blast doing it. Yeah, no, we should have saved our last picks for like fan picks, just throw people on. But I had a very fun time doing this. This is going to be a segment definitely on Two White Lights. So be on the lookout for potentially more of these. If content is a little bit slow in powerlifting, which it should be because it's powerlifting, more drafts, and not going to only be about lifters, going to be about other shit too. So something relating to powerlifting, I would draft it, do a snake draft for it. I love me some snake drafts. Joey, Joe Bags, thank you for coming on the show, man. We're definitely going to have you on again sometime. You did great in your podcast debut. I'm assuming this is your podcast debut.
I did one other podcast with Unruly Julie and my girlfriend Erin Karras, but this is my first time on Two White Lights, and I can't wait to be back. I had a blast, and I'm game with any snake draft possible.
Yeah, we got some pretty cool ideas for snake drafts, so be on the lookout for that. We'll see you guys next week. Peace. All right, we are done recording. You can stop the recording on your end, Steve.
I'm fine.